For more than a century, archaeologists have asked one of the biggest questions in American prehistory. When did the very first humans set foot on this continent? The debate has stirred classrooms, laboratories, and excavation sites across North America. But now, a discovery in the high desert of Oregon is challenging everything we thought we knew. At a place called Rimrock Draw Rockshelter, researchers have uncovered evidence that may push human occupation in North America back more than 18,000 years, far earlier than the long-accepted timeline. Hidden beneath layers of volcanic ash and sediment, the site contains ancient animal remains, finely crafted tools, and microscopic traces of human activity that survived against all odds. If these findings hold true, they don't just shift the timeline, they may rewrite the story of the first Americans. In the dry, windswept desert of eastern Oregon, just outside the small town of Riley, lies a shallow rock overhang known as Rimrock Draw Rockshelter. At first glance, it looks ordinary, just another basalt alcove carved by ancient forces. But beneath its quiet surface, archaeologists suspected there might be more. In 2011, a team from the University of Oregon's Museum of Natural and Cultural History began a careful, multi-year excavation, working in partnership with the Bureau of Land Management. Using modern archaeological techniques, layer-by-layer sediment removal, precise mapping, and controlled screening, they slowly peeled back the shelter's history. Early surveys hinted at scattered artifacts, but nothing prepared the researchers for what they would eventually uncover. As they dug deeper, the ground revealed a record of human presence older than almost any known site in North America. Rimrock Draw was no ordinary shelter. It was a window into a forgotten world. For decades, American prehistory was framed around a single idea known as the Clovis first model. According to this long-held theory, the earliest people to enter North America were members of the Clovis culture, skilled hunters identified by their distinctive stone spear points. Archaeologists believed they arrived around 13,000 years ago, crossing from Siberia into Alaska over the Bering Land Bridge, a frozen landmass exposed during the last ice age. From there, the story continued with a southward migration through what scientists once called the ice-free corridor, a narrow passage between two massive ice sheets covering much of Canada. This corridor was thought to have opened just in time for Clovis groups to travel into the heart of the continent. But recent studies have challenged this timeline. Geological evidence now shows the corridor didn't become passable until 11,000 to 12,000 years ago, far too late to explain early human presence across North America. If Clovis wasn't first, then someone else must have been here earlier, long before the ice retreated. And that question set the stage for discoveries like Rimrock Draw. Long before researchers turned their attention to Oregon's high desert, a few archaeological sites had already begun to crack the foundation of the Clovis first model. In Pennsylvania, Meadowcroft Rockshelter revealed artifacts that appeared to date back as far as 16,000 years, an age many scientists initially resisted because it did not fit the traditional migration timeline. Then came discoveries at Cooper's Ferry in Idaho, where stone tools and hearth remnants also pointed to human activity around 16,000 years ago. Meanwhile, in Oregon, the Paisley Caves provided another breakthrough. Here, preserved coprolites, ancient human dung, were radiocarbon dated to more than 14,000 years old, offering direct genetic evidence of early human presence in the region. These finds collectively challenged the idea that humans arrived only after an ice-free inland corridor opened. Instead, they supported a different theory, that the first Americans may have traveled along the Pacific coastline, using boats to navigate a rich marine ecosystem, now called the Kelp Highway. These early maritime travelers could have entered the continent thousands of years before the Clovis culture appeared. But even these discoveries would be overshadowed by Rimrock Draw. The turning point at Rimrock Draw came when archaeologists uncovered something completely unexpected: the tooth and jaw fragments of an extinct North American camel known as Camelops hesternus. These large, Ice Age animals once roamed the continent long before camels migrated to Asia and Africa. Standing nearly 7 feet tall at the shoulder, they would have been an impressive and challenging source of meat for early hunters. At first, the team assumed the remains might simply belong to an animal that had died naturally, but a closer look told a different story. The camel bones displayed clear signs of human modification, intentional marks that suggested butchering. Even more compelling, the remains were found in direct association with stone tools, hinting at a deliberate hunting and processing event within the shelter. This was not a random deposit. It was a moment frozen in time, humans interacting with megafauna during the harsh climate of the last ice age. But what truly shocked researchers was not the camel itself. It was where the camel was found in the sediment layers. The deeper they dug, the older the story became. The camel remains at Rimrock Draw were intriguing on their own, but what truly elevated their importance was the layer of material sitting directly above them, a blanket of volcanic ash. In archaeology, ash is more than just debris. It is a timestamp, a geological signature that can lock an event in place with remarkable accuracy. Scientists identified this ash as coming from the Mount St. Helens Set S eruption, a massive prehistoric event that occurred roughly 15,600 years ago. Because the camel bones were found beneath this distinctive ash layer, it meant one thing with absolute certainty: the remains and the human activity associated with them were older than the eruption. This ash acted like a sealed envelope. It preserved the deeper layers and protected whatever lay beneath for more than 15 millennia. And what lay beneath pointed to humans far earlier than expected. Once the camel remains were uncovered, scientists turned to one of archaeology's most powerful tools: radiocarbon dating. By analyzing the enamel of the camel's tooth, geochemists were able to measure the decay of carbon isotopes and estimate when the animal last lived. The results were astonishing. The enamel produced an age of approximately 18,250 years before present, a date far older than most known human-associated sites in North America. To understand this number, it helps to know that before present, or BP, is calibrated to the year 1950, the standard reference point used in radiocarbon science. Anything dated in BP represents the number of years before that benchmark. This meant that the camel and the humans who butchered it were active in Oregon thousands of years before the Clovis culture appeared. Even more compelling, the dated tooth was not found at the deepest layer of the site. It was simply the first datable material encountered. What lay beneath remained an even bigger mystery. Alongside the camel remains, archaeologists uncovered a series of finely crafted stone tools, evidence that humans were not just passing through Rimrock Draw, but actively working and processing resources there. Among the most striking were a set of scrapers made from orange agate, a material prized by ancient toolmakers for its ability to fracture cleanly and produce razor-sharp edges. What made these tools even more significant was the origin of the stone itself. Orange agate does not occur naturally within the basalt walls of the shelter. It had to be carried in from elsewhere or acquired through trade. This means the people who used Rimrock Draw either traveled widely across the landscape or maintained contact with other groups who did. Such choices reveal a level of planning and technological sophistication. These early toolmakers weren't just grabbing whatever rocks were available. They were selecting high-quality materials, experimenting with them, and returning repeatedly to the shelter to refine their craft. The tools also hinted at activities beyond simple butchering: hide processing, meat preparation, and other daily tasks that point to a longer-term relationship with the site. As the excavation continued, one particular stone scraper revealed the kind of evidence archaeologists rarely find: ancient blood residue. Using a specialized laboratory technique that detects preserved proteins, scientists identified traces of bison blood trapped within microscopic fractures on the tool's surface. These proteins had been sealed away from bacteria, sunlight, and decay for thousands of years, effectively fossilized within the stone. This discovery was a breakthrough. It provided direct proof that the tool had been used to butcher a large Ice Age animal, likely Bison antiquus, the massive ancestor of today's American bison. Combined with the camel remains, it painted a vivid picture. Humans were not merely present in the region. They were skilled hunters, capable of processing large game at the height of the last glacial maximum. Finding blood residues of this age is incredibly rare. It served as the smoking gun, confirming that Rimrock Draw was not just a geological site, but a place of active human behavior more than 18,000 years ago. If the story had ended with the camel tooth, Rimrock Draw would already be one of the oldest human-associated sites on the continent. But excavations revealed something even more intriguing. Beneath the layers containing the camel remains, and below the volcanic ash, archaeologists recovered additional stone tools buried deeper in the sediment. According to the law of superposition, the geological principle stating that deeper layers are older than those above, these artifacts must predate the 18,250-year-old tooth. This means the camel date represents a minimum age rather than the oldest moment of human activity at the shelter. In simpler terms, if a camel was lying there 18,000 years ago, the people who left tools even deeper may have been present long before that. While these deeper artifacts still await direct dating, their position strongly suggests that human occupation at Rimrock Draw may approach, or even exceed, 20,000 years ago. Each layer adds another piece to a timeline that keeps stretching further into the Ice Age. If the dates from Rimrock Draw continue to hold, the implications are enormous. The site offers some of the earliest evidence of human presence in North America, pushing occupation well beyond 18,000 years ago, and challenging the long-standing belief that the Clovis culture marked the continent's first inhabitants. Instead, it supports a growing body of research suggesting that people arrived much earlier, possibly traveling along the Pacific coastline thousands of years before the inland ice-free corridor opened. These findings also highlight the adaptability of early humans. Surviving in Oregon during the height of the last glacial maximum would have required resilience, mobility, and deep knowledge of both land and animals. Rimrock Draw doesn't just adjust the timeline, it reshapes our understanding of how the first Americans lived, moved, and interacted with an Ice Age environment, very different from the one we know today. Despite the remarkable findings at Rimrock Draw, many questions remain unanswered. Were these early visitors seasonal hunters stopping briefly at the shelter, or did they return year after year as part of a larger migration pattern? How far did their networks extend, and what other sites might still lie hidden beneath the Pacific Northwest's rugged landscape? Future radiocarbon dating of the deeper stone tools could push the timeline even further back, offering a clearer picture of when humans first arrived. Ongoing sediment analysis, residue studies, and excavation will continue to refine our understanding. What is certain, however, is that Rimrock Draw has become a key piece in a much larger puzzle, one that is far from complete. Rimrock Draw Rockshelter has emerged as one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in North America. With camel remains dated to more than 18,000 years ago, stone tools buried even deeper, and traces of ancient blood preserved in their edges, the site challenges long-held assumptions about when humans first arrived on this continent. It forces us to reconsider not only the timeline, but the routes, lifestyles, and resilience of the earliest Americans. Each new layer uncovered at Rimrock Draw expands the story further back into the Ice Age, revealing a world where people hunted massive animals, crafted specialized tools, and adapted to a harsh and changing environment. The mystery of who these early inhabitants were and how far back their history truly reaches continues to unfold with every discovery.